Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to this little tutorial that we're going to do. So as you can see, we'll be flying the a2a P-40, very famous World War II plane. A2a planes are very good simulation planes, and with this plane a2a did a very good job. So first off, we're going to go over a couple of the little menus that they implemented in this simulation. Then we'll check out how to start her up, how to do the taxiing, and in the next video we'll do a couple of touch and goes. So let's start. So like I said, a2a did a couple of very nice menus with this plane. So for example, if we go to Shift 7, we get the maintenance hangar. So over here you can see which plane you're flying and how long you've been flying it. So 1.8 hours, which isn't a lot. The engine, the propeller, and in what condition your plane is. So it's in a great shape, so that's all good. If there was something wrong with the plane, after every landing you get a report how the condition of the plane is. You can do a complete overhaul to repair everything. We can also check out the engine. So as you can see, everything here is in green, which means that everything is fine. If it would be in yellow, it means that it's almost ready to be repaired, and if it's red, then it means that it has to be repaired. We can also do compression tests. And if we go back to this menu, we'll get, there we go, the results of that test. And that's all perfect. Now, next up is Shift 6. That's for our radios. So the communication and your transponder code. For this flight, we'll not use the ATC, so we don't have to have our radio. Shift 5 is your map. At the moment we're at Echo Bravo Kilo Tango, which is Kortrijk Airport in Belgium. So we're close to France and close to the Belgian coast. This map is handy because, for example, if you have a flight plan, if you're using a flight plan, then you can actually see it over here. So it's nice to see where your plane is and which way you're heading. But we're not using a flight plan for this video. And now to the important things. Shift 4 is your payload and fuel manager, so we can put in the pilot's weight. So let's put that on 81. I weigh a bit more than 81, but let's give myself a compliment for this video. There we go. We can also put ammunition in the plane. We're not doing that. Here we have our fuel, the reserve and the wing fuel. I'm going to fill the reserve fuel a bit up. I'm going to fill that completely up. And then next we have we can fill up our oxygen, our coolant fluids, engine oil, and hydraulic fluids. This is very important to check out before every flight. We have our fuel and oil type. So I always use 100 for fuel. I never change it. And the oil type, so it's summer at the moment in Belgium, so I'm using 1120. You can change it to the normal one, or if it's winter, you can change it to the winter one. So depends where you are and what season it is. Then Shift 3 is our controls, which is super handy for this plane. So we have some things like the radio, pilot heat, oxygen mask, and headphones. Above 10,000 feet with this plane, you have to wear your oxygen mask. Headphones come in very handy because it's a loud plane. I will be using that when we start her up. At the moment we're using our wheel jacks. I'll explain that in a second. Auto hydraulic pump. This plane, when we will be using hydraulic fluid for our flaps and for our gear, we have to click a button that's on the flight stick to use the hydraulic fluids. Normally, I put that button on my actual flight stick that I'm using. If you don't do that, you have to do it with the mouse button, and it makes it very difficult to fly the plane and be clicking that button at the same time. We'll go to the cockpit and I'll show you. So it's this little button here on the flight stick. So put that on your actual throttle or your flight stick that you're using, because otherwise you'll get into trouble. If you don't want to do that, then you can use the auto hydraulic pump. So then you just lower your flaps or your gear and it will go automatically. It's not very realistic, so we're not going to use that. You can choose if you want to have the pilot in the plane or not. Then electrics, all these things will do that manually. And then our lights, same, also do that manually. Then we have our radiator flaps. Those are situated here in the plane. And we can auto start the plane, or we can do a cold start. Cold start means that it will go to the situation we're in now, so everything is off. And then damage on or off and the volume. So next up we have the pilot notes. So here we have some information, so the ground speed and things like that, power settings, some important information that we'll be needing. So for example, takeoff, the oil has to be 40 degrees minimum and maximum 100 degrees of coolant. This is very important. Never take off if it's over 100. Yeah, don't idle, because otherwise we will get to that 100 degrees. Other important things over 10,000 feet, like I said, oxygen mask on. And this is also where you will find your checklist. And we'll be going over that now. But first I'm going to show you what is up with the jacks. So we're going to put the plane on jacks now. So there we go. And when it's like this, you can actually check out how the hydraulic fluid works with the flaps and the gear. So we're going to do that now. So if you click Shift 1, we have this handy button, menu. So normally, if you would be actually flying the plane, you would check with your left hand in what position the flaps or the gear would be. They have 3 positions, up, neutral, and down. But because we're not actually in the plane and we can't feel it, then we would have to look around with our mouse, and that's not very easy. So I use this menu a lot and it's very easy. So we're going to, for example, lower our flaps. Going to use the hydraulic fluid button. We need some power for that. Sorry. So battery on. There we go. And there are our flaps lowering. Back to neutral and back up. Same goes with the gear. Neutral and back down. So that was that, and back to neutral. So those were the menus. The jacks, well, it's fun to check out, but I never really use it. So it's just for the tutorial now that I wanted to show it. Next up is we're going to start the plane up. So let's get rid of our jacks. Shift 3, and there we go. Okay. So back to the cockpit. First thing we have to do, we'll go to our checklists. Mags have to be off. Mags are situated here. So they're off now. Can go to left, right, or both. But let's go back to off. Gear and flaps are neutral. You can see it in the menu. Here are our flaps and here's the landing gear. Propeller switch on and auto. It's on and it's on auto. Parking brakes are on. Now the battery can go on. That's already on with the flaps. We're also switching on the generator, and we're going to use our APU. So to our control menu, APU, and also a very nice thing, if you look outside, we can see our little APU standing here now. I know that the checklist doesn't mention generator and APU, but I always do it, and that's at that moment. We're going to check the fuel. So we're going to select our reserve fuel. There we go, it's on reserves. This one here is our reserve fuel, so that's good. And in the bottom on the floor we have the wing fuel, and that's also good. Check controls for movement. That's perfect. Yep. Carburetor air has to be cold, so this one has to be out. We only use that when we're in flight. Radiator flaps open. Completely open. We can also see it in the menu. Propeller lever full forward. That's the black one. It's full forward. Throttle a bit cracked. And the mixture, the red one, is cut off. Now for the engine starting. Magnetos again. They can go to both. We're going to wobble this pump here, and we're going to check this little lever here, little thing here, to, that it goes to 0.4 psi. So there it goes. That's good. Yep, perfect. Now we're going to prime the engine. I always prime it 3 times. So we open it up. 1, 2, 3. I'll leave it open for a second because there's an option that we have to prime it again. And now we're going to energize the engine and then engage it. So this button is situated over here. When we pull it down, we energize it. When we put it up, we engage it. So we're going to pull that down for 20 seconds until we hear that the sound is becoming very clear. Will be around 20 seconds, and then we will start it and we will see the engine starting. After that, we'll put our mixture to auto rich, and we're up to done, and we're ready to go then. So let's do that now. Okay, and there we go. Auto rich. And we're going to put our headphones on. There we go. We're going to primer one more time, and then we can close this. Now we will have to wait for the oil temperature and the coolant to rise. So here's the coolant temperature. This has to rise to 80 degrees. We're at 25 now. And we have our oil temperature, which has to be 40, and we're at 20 now. So we have to wait a bit now. In the meantime, we can check out a couple of things. Something that you always have to check out with this plane is that your gyros are at the same degrees, because it tends to be a little bit off. So the bottom one here is at 65 and the top one is at 61. So we're going to change that a little bit to 65, 65, 65, so that's perfect. We can switch on our lights, so landing lights on and that running lights on. In the meantime, you could also do your radios, but like I said, we're not using a2a today, so we'll not do that. Check the temperature. 27 and 47, so it's still a bit to go. We can put our flaps down. And back to neutral. Here you can see the position of your flaps and the position of your landing gear, so flaps are full down now. We're going to cycle our prop. That's good. 30 degrees and 60, so we're getting there. Now we're going to check our max. So we're going to raise the RPM to 2300 and our manifold pressure has to go to 25 then. So let's check that out. Yeah, that's perfect. Back down. And 35 degrees and 74. So in a couple of seconds we'll be ready to taxi. We'll be taxiing to runway 24, which is on the left. And then in the next video we'll be taking off, doing a little flight and doing a couple of touch and goes. Okay, perfect. Temperature is great. Like I said before, don't idle and don't wait, because the coolant temperature really has to be below 100 when we take off. So we're at 87 already, so let's hurry up. Thing about taxiing this plane is make like smooth and calm turns, because you don't want to flip it over to a side. Also keep on checking your temperature. And your speed, of course. It's very easy to go too fast. If you're going too fast and you want to brake, by the way, don't just go full down on the brakes, because there's a chance that you will flip over. Pull back on the stick a bit, slow down, and then use your brakes. So we're almost at... Okay, we're at 90, so that's perfect. And we're almost there. I really enjoy flying this plane. It's a very nice plane, and yeah, it's like completely different what I'm used to. Normally I'm always flying airliners, which is great and fun in its own way, but there's so much more to do in this one. It's so different. So when we arrive at the runway, we're going to do a couple of more checks before we line up for our takeoff. There we go. Slowing down. And yep. Okay, so now we can wait a bit. Go back to our menu. So we're going to check our controls again. Those are all good. Our elevator and rudder trim are in neutral. Our mixture is in auto rich. Propeller lever is full forward. It's also perfect. Our flaps, I put them down a bit too high actually, but too low, but yeah, fine. Radiator flaps open as needed. I always close them a little bit, not much. Like, this is good. We're going to do a press tone test, which is this button here. So that's good. Check that your attitude gyro is uncaged. It is, so that's also good. And we're ready for takeoff. Check your temperature, it's 95, so that's all perfect. Takeoff is, by the way, always done with the canopy open, as you can see. Canopy is, well, normally I wouldn't close it. Now when you take off, you close it, but it's this one here. There we go, see, it's closed. Let me open it up again. I hope you enjoyed this video and that I helped a bit with getting this plane ready for flight. If there are any more questions or things that you would advise me to do, then just put it down below in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. And in the next video we'll be taking off, doing a little flight and a couple of touch and goes. So thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye!